All right, here we go. Chapter 1, Donuthead by Sue Stoffacher. Chapter 1, Just the Facts. My name, if you must know, is Franklin Delano Donuthead. Try saying that in a room full of fifth graders if you think names will never hurt you. The Donuthead part comes from way back, from my great-great-great-great-grandfather who came to the United States during the famous turnip famine. Of course, he didn't speak a lick of English. His Russian name was something like Donuthead. Somehow, when he came out of the ferry office at Ellis Island with a piece of paper in his hand, he was a Donuthead. So basically, I come from a long line of suffering Russian Donutheads. All the suffering could have been avoided if it weren't for Washington Irving. This very famous writer recorded the events of his life in his journal. One day, he wrote about these little balls of sweetened dough he liked fried up in hog fat. He called them dough nuts. Because, you see, the very first doughnuts were shaped like lumpy brown walnuts. If only he'd stuck with the name the Dutch people gave them. They were the ones who created them anyway. They called them oliekokes. If he had called them oliekokes, my life would have been very different, I assure you. Then again, with my luck, I would have been named Franklin Delano Oliekokehead. My mother is a major fan of our 32nd president. She likes to listen to the radio addresses that Franklin Delano Roosevelt gave when he came into office during the Great Depression. Believe it or not, she listens to them in her van during her workday. She has them all on tape. If FDR could rise above a life-threatening illness to become president of the United States, then you should be able to rise above the curse of a name like Donuthead to at least play third base for the New York Yankees, my mother says. I think this is very unfair. Your mother gives you a name when you're all red and screaming and you have a pounding headache. You're not really in a position to question the future situation. Now that I'm 11, I have pretty much accepted my life. I'm a Russian Donuthead who's named after a great handicapped president. In some twisted way, this all makes sense because, you see, I too am handicapped. Yes, one side of my body is shorter than the other. My mother says this is my imagination, but I'm here to tell you that a tape measure does not lie. Maybe you're just growing from side to side, she says. One side first, and then the other. While this may be possible, I think it's highly unlikely. I have found no evidence to support this theory. Currently, there is an 0.8 of an inch difference between my left arm and my right arm, and a 0.4 of an inch difference between my left leg and my right leg. Just yesterday, when I measured my legs after school, I found my toe creeping closer to the 5. I'm preparing myself mentally to have legs that look like they belong on two different bodies. Both my left arm and my left leg are longer. At this rate, I'm going to have to go to one of those special stores to be fitted for my Sunday suits. Soon, I'll be buying shoes with one high heel. All my mother cares about is how this will affect my ability to play third base for the New York Yankees. I keep telling her that with my athletic ability, I'd be lucky if they hired me to chalk out the field. I think it's so pathetic how parents are always trying to transfer their dreams onto their kids. So far, I've just focused on staying alive. If I didn't know there was an astonishingly high probability that I would live through each day, given my age, general health, and relatively high standard of living, I would not get out of bed in the morning. I avoid motor vehicles whenever possible. According to the National Safety Department, this is by far the most likely way to die as a kid. I also avoid all bodies of water. Drowning is number 2. And anything that would cause a death-inducing accident, number 3. This could be, say, being hit in the temple by a hard grounder down the third base line. In addition, I never play with matches or firearms, never climb trees, ladders, or fences, change the smoke detector batteries every 3 months, do not drink liquids that are stored under the sink, or put any plastic bags over my head. Gloria Nellots, the chief statistician for the National Safety Department in Washington, has already offered me a job when I graduate from college, if I should live that long. She and I talk at least once a week. Me. Good morning, Gloria. What is it now, Franklin? My school is planning a field trip to a working farm, and I was just wondering, what is the likelihood of me being crushed by a moving tractor? Remote. Trapped in a hay silo and suffocated by grain? They don't make percentages that small. Can mad cow disease be transmitted by saliva? I mean, if a cow licks me and Franklin, you would have to eat it. And since you never touch red meat, Gloria, I think you should know our school bus does not have seat belts. I'll get someone on that right away, Franklin. It's bus number 987 in the Pelican View School District. In addition, I think the rear tires are overinflated, causing premature baldness. I was just wondering, Gloria, you won't get a note from me, Franklin, if that's what you're angling for. I think it's perfectly safe for you to go to the farm. Well, obviously, I'm concerned for the safety of all the students, not just myself. Recently, I noticed that several children have been coming to school with their shoes untied. These are young children, Gloria. Franklin? Yes? Do you ever think about girls? Girls? Gloria? I think it would be better for your health if you thought about girls rather than disasters. Stress plays a major role in the leading causes of death in this nation. Well, let me tell you, I didn't have anything to say to that. I just had to hang up right then. After all, Gloria is a girl. How could I tell her that girls filled me with so much stress they ought to come with warning labels? Girls, I do not understand. Girls cannot be quantified in any way. The laws of mathematics, physics, and chemistry do not apply to anything wearing a barrette or a gold bracelet. Unless, of course, it's not real gold. Then you may witness a green ring on the skin resulting from the interaction between these base metals and the acids in both perspiration and the atmosphere. The only thing that frightens me more than girls is the Pelican View basketball team. We don't have the full complement of sports teams like you get in middle school. Just a basketball team and a baseball team. Anybody who wants to be on the team can be on the team. You can have the mental fitness of a pretzel and the grace of a station wagon on black ice. And Coach Jablonski still has to take you on the team. In winter, I was being terrorized by the basketball team. Come spring, it would be the baseball team. For some reason, all the boys who like to pound on sensitive, asymmetrical guys like me are also attracted to Pelican View sports teams. I want you to stop and underline that word, asymmetrical. Let's go. There was one other factor in my safety profile that I should mention. I am fatherless. My mother is husbandless. This is both devastating and out of my control. I have mentioned to my mother that coming from a single parent home puts me at a disproportionately high risk for all sorts of life-threatening behaviors like alcohol and drug abuse, depression and anger management issues, and being abducted by kidnappers on the rare evenings she has to work late. When I ask her what she intends to do about this, my mother gets rather testy. Franklin, you gave a medical questionnaire to the last guy, remember? At the door. The medical questionnaire was for the mechanic she met on the internet. I thought it necessary to take a few precautions. Normally, a brief interview is sufficient. I cannot understand why you object to learning about a person's overall state of health, I said. We were having dinner together, and it was my turn to be chef. I'd chosen a dish composed mostly of dark orange and green vegetables for their antioxidant properties. Though I'd made it myself, my mother was dissecting her serving as if it were a frog she'd found flattened at the side of the road. When the Lepners bought their dog, I continued calmly, they had a licensed veterinarian check his eyes, his legs, even his hips. The way I see it, a father is an investment. You don't want to put all your energy into getting one and then have him keel over from a heart attack 2 years down the line. My mother flipped over a slice of sweet potato and inspected the underside. For your information, I'm not looking for a father, and I'd rather leave some things to chance, to, I don't know, the great unknowable. She skewered her sweet potato and popped it into her mouth, grimacing. And the Lepner's dog got run over by the recycling truck, in case you've forgotten. Unfortunately, this was true, and it did not strengthen my argument. The Lepners lived next door to us. Bernie Lepner was my full-time neighbor and my sometimes I have to play with you because my mother says so friend, which meant I had to go to the funeral, which was held at a pet cemetery. Needless to say, I bathed in a hydrogen peroxide solution when I got home. I think we should give the health inspector another chance, I said, trying to steer the conversation back to the subject of suitable fathers. My mother got up from the table and began energetically scraping her casserole into the garbage. He had blue lips. I wasn't attracted, she said. Is that all you can object to? You're a girl, for heaven's sakes. You should know we can change that. Look, Franklin, when you're ready to date, you can choose girls however you want. You might buy them wrapped in plastic from Toys R Us for all I know. I'm just looking for someone who likes the same things I do, someone who might find you interesting. She opened the fridge, pulled out a container of yogurt and an apple, and sat back down with me. I tried hard not to let this injure my culinary pride. Stop and underline culinary. And yes, I want someone I'm attracted to. There was a long silence while she sawed her apple into slices and spooned yogurt over them. Do you think my real father has children by now? I asked. Now, don't go calling him your real father, Franklin. He didn't want to be a father. He was a sperm donor. But he might be a father now. And the Lepner's dog might be alive with a litter of puppies. Baron was a male. You know what I mean. Unfortunately, I did know what she meant. My mother meant that some questions have no answers. Of course, I had a father. Everyone does. But I also didn't have a father, because the man whose genes were coursing around inside me had never met my mother, and he'd certainly never met me. I probably had a couple dozen half-brothers and sisters too, maybe even here in Pelican View. And he wasn't their father either. Come to think of it, I hope they keep good records at the sperm donor clinic. Those half-relatives will come in handy in the event that I need an organ donation someday. That was chapter 1. So you underlined 2 words, and one was on page 5, asymmetrical. So I want you to find the definition for that. And then the second one was on page 7, and that was culinary. And I want you to find the definition to that. Okay? All right. We'll talk later.